Welcome back to Corner Stories. Please enjoy this video and don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. And now let's get on to story 1. I, 49F, have an ex-husband named Jake, 53. We have 3 kids, Kyle 18F, Carter 21M and Knox 25M. When I was pregnant with Kyle he was cheating on me with his assistant Abigail. She was an 18-year-old freshman in college at the time. She got pregnant with Lizzie a year later. When I wouldn't take him back we got a divorce and he married her. He then had 2 more kids with her. He paid child support but that was it and only see them once a month. However, if one of the kids asked him for something he'll agree to get it, but wouldn't answer the kids' phone calls until he figured I had gotten what they needed. He wouldn't show up to any of the kids' sports games or plays. But if his aunts and mom would go then he would be there. His aunts and mom are big-time lawyers and he needs their approval. His family is somewhat shallow. If someone isn't in a prestigious position then they'll look down upon them. And any form of gossip is seen as negative and they'll yell at you for making the family look bad. So in front of them Jake would brag about everything he does for the kids when in reality he does nothing. However, my kids see their family vacations and at first it hurt them, but they began to ignore it. He told them it was because I take them on 2 vacations every year and Lizzie only gets 1. He just tells his family it was because the kids didn't want to go. However, during the Christmas party, Lizzie was talking to her great-aunts about the upcoming trip to the Dominican Republic. Kyle then asked what they were talking about. She explained how the family was taking a trip and that their dad said they had other plans. Kyle explained how she had no plans and neither did her brothers, so they'll love to come. Here's where the problems start. My kids being that far away with their dad never sat right with me, so I went with them on vacation. His wife wasn't happy but me and his family are still close, so it wasn't weird. So at a dinner my daughter and Carter go to a very prestigious college, and my oldest is in medical school. So his mom asked what's happening with all the kids. My daughter then explains how she was chosen for an internship for a tech company and everyone congratulated her. His mom then asked about Lizzie. My daughter told me that Lizzie has been bragging about a secret and everyone thinks that she got into her dream college, so his mom was smiling ear to ear waiting to congratulate her. But Lizzie explains that she's pregnant. Everyone's face fell to the floor including Jake's. Everyone began to question Jake and Abigail's parenting. Jake then said that it was all on Lizzie because he parenting was a result of my children's success. I was tired of the lies and explained how he was never there unless his family was there in order to look good in front of them. They then asked if that was true and he tried to lie saying of course not. Then Kyle chimed in saying that he hadn't even invited them to this vacation, and that he lies about everything and he's a shitty dad. Kyle stormed off and me and my sons ran after her. Later I got a text from Jake thanking me for ruining his family. I didn't text him back. I do feel bad because it probably wasn't the time or place. You know, with stories like this one I always wonder why the hurt parent stays quiet and watch the cheating spouse lie. She saw the effects her ex's lies had on the kids and she never once tried to clear the air, until it got to a really bad point. I don't mean to put any blame on OP, I just wonder why she stayed quiet and allowed her ex to spin his web of lies in order to look better than he is. The ex is the real piece of work here though, sleeping around with a literal teenager while being married with kids. What an awful man and father. The least he could do was show up and support the kids, but even that was too much for him. Anyway, I digress. Let's quickly look at the top comments and then move on to the update. Top comments: if he wasn't such a shitty person there would be nothing bad to say about him. It's always wild to me when people blame other people for the consequences of their actions, and refusing to lie for them. He dug his own pit and stepped in it. Update, February 23, 2024. First thing I want to answer is why did I feel the need to go with my kids? I'm best friends with his sister and have been going on trips with them since I was in high school. And I'm always a mom, so I'll never deliberately put my kids in a situation where I can't get to them. So after the situation escalated, I got a call from his wife saying that she couldn't find my husband and that he better not be in my room. I told her he wasn't and she hung up. I then heard a knock on my door. I opened it up and Abigail barged into my room screaming that she knew he was in there. I let her look because I was confused as to what was happening. When she couldn't find him she just sat on my floor silently crying. The situation was very awkward, so I didn't know what to do and kicking her out didn't seem right, so I just asked what was wrong. She explained that over the past 17 years Jake has been verbally abusive and claiming that she and Lizzie ruined his happiness. When she was 18 Jake promised that he would leave me for her, but every time she asked when he would lash out at her. So she got pregnant on purpose to trap him. But Jake tried to pay her off to get rid of it. But when I found out and filed for divorce he thought it was best to just go be with her. But every day he would berate her and call her useless. And apparently he was cheating on her constantly. She stayed because she dropped out of college and hadn't worked since she was at his office 18 years ago. She apologized for barging in and just left. I texted Jake that he might want to check on his wife because she seems unpredictable right now. I didn't get a text back, so I assumed everything was okay. So I just went to bed for the night. But the next morning I woke up with a really long text from Jake, so I'll just summarize what it says. He told me how sorry he was for stepping out on our marriage and that was the biggest mistake he ever made. He wished he was more involved with me and the kids, and he hated seeing Lizzie and Abigail every day. He explained that's why he took on more hours so he could be away from them, and that subsequently affected our kids. He said Abigail explained how she told me everything and that he was finally happy the truth was out so he could get away from them. He hoped that after all this time I could forgive him and we could repair our relationship. I explained to him that we have no need for a relationship. I'm remarried, and the kids are grown, so he should focus on fixing their relationship. He didn't text back. I explained to my kids that I'm going to leave early but they should enjoy the rest of their trip. Kyle didn't want to stay but the boys were fine staying. So me and Kyle are back home. I texted the boys and asked them how the trip was going, and he explained that everything was a mess and Jake and Abigail weren't talking to each other. Top comments: you didn't make him look bad, he did that all by himself. He's an ex for a reason, remember that. Your ex is terrible and you dodged a massive bullet. Absolutely insane that he really thought you'd forgive him after all of this. He's absolutely vile. He's living in his karma after learning that the grass is in fact not greener. I feel bad for his wife, but if they do it with you, they'll do it to you. Happy that you've healed and moved on. And I'm just going to add one final comment before we move on to story 2. Jake is a shit father and husband to both Abigail and OP, but Abigail is not a victim. Even at 18 a person knows that sleeping with a married person is wrong. Her having an awful married life to Jake is her just desserts. Story 2. This story does come with a trigger warning as it contains talks of SA and child abuse. If these topics are too much for you, please feel free to click off this video. There are plenty of videos on the channel, please visit one of those. Now let's get on with the story. Me and my son, Richard relationship used to be great until I divorced his mother when he was 6. She was a very bitter and cold person and she got main custody and I had only 2 weekends a month and split holidays. His mother made really hard for me to see him and I could barely spend time with him outside of court dates or she'll bring us back to court and get me in more trouble. I'll be honest, after I remarried my now wife, 56F, and had my other sons, 30M and 28M, I stopped trying hard with my son and neglected him in the process. Things came to a head when he was 14 and his uncle, Ray, ex-wife brother, called me from the hospital revealing my son's stepdad had been molesting him and him for 2 years. Ray had physically beat the stepdad near death after he walked in on him trying to force himself on Richard. I made it to the hospital and my heart nearly sank seeing the nurses and doctors using a kid as well as Richard crying his heart out to Ray and holding on him for dear life. I tried hugging and talking to him but he just ignored me and wouldn't talk to me till Ray told him he could. I stayed in the hospital for about a week with him since Ray was taken in by the cops and doctors wanted to keep Richard under monitoring just to make sure no sexual diseases came up. For that week the only thing Richard did was blaming me for the SA and calling me horrible dad for not protecting him. I tried apologizing and cried my heart out saying how sorry I was for not protecting him but he just shut me out. We got things with the court started and his stepdad was convicted. My ex-wife knew it was happening and there was evidence and she got some time in prison, so naturally I got granted his custody. I tried putting him through therapy but he shut that down. He stayed in his room and just ignored me, my wife and his siblings. For 4 years, he left when he was 18, he just ignored me. He would eat what I bought, he would wear any of the clothes I bought him, nor use anything I bought for him. I really tried with him but he just gave up on me and didn't love me anymore. When he was 18 he left and went to live with Ray and basically cut me and his brothers off. Ray tried maintaining our relationship but Richard asked him to stop since he didn't want a bastard, me, in his life. Now it's been years and he still doesn't act like my son. Sure, our relationship had gotten civil now but he still keeps me at arm's length. He didn't put me in the wedding party for his wedding to his wife. Michelle didn't let me choose a suit for him for his wedding but he let Ray go with him. He didn't even meet any of my grandkids till they were 1 year old but he let Ray meet them 2 days after the birth. He even named one of his daughters after Ray, Rayanne. He treats Ray as the kid's grandfather and me some second-class grandpa. I don't see the kids as much as they live in a different state and Ray lives with them in their in-law suite. They own a huge farm, and so Ray basically gets to grow with my son and my grandkids while I have to wait till Athlete's Christmas. It's unfair. Anyways, things came to a head last week. I hosted all the family for a dinner party and my son and his family arrived since he was in town. During this I asked my son, since they were staying in Texas for the week, if the kids could sleep over at our place tonight so he and Michelle could have some alone time. Richard shut it down quickly, saying no, they booked a nice hotel for a reason and the kids could enjoy their stay there. I asked him again, saying I wanted to spend time with my grandkids, but she shut it down. My wife told me to drop it since we were eating, and I did so. After dinner I pulled him aside and asked him again if the kids could stay over again. He said no and pushed for an answer why they couldn't stay with me for a few days but Ray could have them for a year. I broke down yelling at him why he was doing this to me, and Richard calmly said that he simply didn't trust me to protect the kids if something were to happen. I froze and asked him why would he think that and why he would think I wouldn't protect them, and he said why should he believe I'll protect the people that matter to him in the world when I didn't even protect him. I tried saying something but he cut me off, saying if I kept pushing it I would never see the kids again, and he left okay after making some excuses for his wife. I don't know what to do. He basically called me a failure. What should I do? How do I move on from this? This is a tough one, but one thing that popped out at me was how focused the OP was about himself. Everything was focused on his feelings and wants. He didn't bother to speak with his son, he just kept pushing his wants. And I wonder why his son, Richard, was so fixated on blaming OP. Richard was a kid and just needed his dad. Clearly the mom is scum, she knew and did nothing, so she couldn't be depended on. So I suppose Richard put his hopes on his dad saving him, and when that didn't happen, he just closed off from him. This is a difficult story all the way around, but tell me, what do you think about the OP, the dad in this story? Does he deserve a closer relationship with his son? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Now I don't want to end this video on a sad note, so let's go down to something a bit more lighthearted. My sister lives in a more rural area and has recently been plagued with having her mailbox smashed in twice in 1 month. Someone was playing mailbox baseball and she was one of the victims. She asked for my help and was worried about staying within the law to protect herself. I told her that we could figure something out, so I went to Home Depot and purchased 2 identical steel mailboxes, the traditional kind with the rounded top. I took one mailbox and glued a layer of 1/16-inch foam underlayment to the inside. I filled it with concrete, making sure to add the appropriate rebar with a curved handle sticking out of the end. Once everything was set, I cut off the outer mailbox shell and used a torch to burn off the foam underlayment still stuck to the concrete. What was left was a slightly undersized concrete plug that would perfectly fit in the second mailbox and that could be inserted and removed. You see, my sister is afraid of snakes. By inserting the concrete plug into the mailbox at night, it would give her the peace of mind that a snake can't into her mailbox. I installed the second mailbox, informed my sister how the anti-snake concrete plug worked, and explained that the best time to put it in the mailbox would be at night. Strangely enough, one morning there was a mark on her new mailbox and a bunch of small glass pieces along the road. Hypothetically speaking, it was the kind of glass produced by someone swinging a baseball bat, having it bounce back off of a mailbox, and smashing a car window. On a positive note, her mailbox has remained snake-free. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to connect with each other in the comments below. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I'll catch you in the next video. Corner Stories signing off.